This podcast is sponsored by ebookit.com, self-publishing solutions for the independent author and small press. Visit us today at ebookit.com. Friday, April 9th, 2010. Hello and welcome to the Toastmasters podcast, the official podcast of Toastmasters International. Hello everybody and welcome to this edition of the Toastmasters podcast. My name is Bo Bennett.
And my name is Ryan Levesque.
And today we have a great show for you. Ryan, who are we going to be speaking with today?
Today we're going to be speaking with Mr. Dan Nainan. Dan is a 100% clean comedian. He's also an actor, a voiceover artist, a musician, and a computer expert. Dan has been seen on NBC's Last Comic Standing, on Saturday Night Live, as well as on Nickelodeon and A&E. He's done a variety of TV commercials and appeared on many radio stations around the U.S. Mr. Nainan has performed at various events for Hillary Clinton, for Congressman Mike Honda, Sanjay Gupta, and Howard Dean, and he's also performed with some of the top comedians in the country, including Jerry Seinfeld, Russell Peters, Bob Saget, Tim Conway, and Gary Shandling. Dan Nainan, welcome to the Toastmasters podcast.
Welcome,
Dan.
Welcome.
Great it's fantastic to be here. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
It is great to have you with us today, Dan. Dan, you have a very interesting background of what you were doing before you broke into comedy, and I was hoping you could share that with our listeners to start off here.
Well, actually, it was my job to travel around the world with Intel chairman and co-founder Andy Grove. And my job was to speak on stage doing technical demonstrations that I would design in the lab at Intel's Santa Clara headquarters. And the technical part was easy, especially for a guy who was half Indian and half Japanese. I mean, it's like I was born to do high tech. In fact, one of the jokes I have is when I applied for the job at Intel, they said, "You're Indian and Japanese? You don't even have to interview." But the difficult part was the speaking on stage, and we're talking in front of analyst meetings, in front of thousands of people at shows all over the world. And sometimes on television in Asia, we were in front of millions of people. So I was really terrified, and I decided that I had to do something. And we had speaker training, but it was only for a day or two, and it was not great. And then I noticed that Intel had a Toastmasters club that actually was sort of a internal club that would meet on the Intel campus I think it was Wednesday at noon. So that's how I got started with Toastmasters, and of course it was invaluable being able to get up and do speeches and to learn not to do ums and ahs and so forth. It was fantastic.
All right. Dan, how long have you been doing Toastmasters for? And are you still doing it now?
Well, that was at Intel, yes, and I just actually have moved out to I actually live between New York and Los Angeles. I'm here in LA, and I'm in beautiful Beverly Hills where there's not a cloud in the sky today.
You must be doing well, Dan.
Well, it's actually not as expensive as you think it is. But the thing is I decided that I really want to find a club out here, and I'm sure there's, just like anywhere else in America, there's a Toastmasters out here. So my goal is to find, or have my assistant find, I should say, a Toastmasters club for me to join out here in Beverly Hills.
Cool.
Very nice, very nice. And Dan, how long were you an active member of Toastmasters back at Intel?
Well, it was the whole time I was at Intel, so that would have been about 4 years.
Oh, great.
Yes.
And can you describe for us a little bit of Dan Nainan pre-Toastmasters and Dan Nainan post-Toastmasters?
Well, everyone thinks a comedian was just like the life of the party when you were in school, and I was extremely painfully shy and withdrawn in school all the way through school. Started to kind of come out of my shell in college, but I think pre-Toastmasters, I was the kind of guy that was just like anyone else, was terrified of speaking on stage. And I actually ran into a guy who was the president of our club named Prashant, and he was just such a great speaker and a real role model for me. And I tried to emulate him, and I don't think I'm quite the speaker that he is just yet, but he helped me tremendously. He was a great role model to look up to.
Great. Hey, Dan, I noticed that your website says that you're a 100% clean comedian. I'm taking that doesn't mean that you shower on a regular basis. I probably understand that.
Yes, no.
But doing comedy myself for a while and going the circuit, I realized that when people aren't doing too well, they usually fall back to just like swearing their heads off. Why did you decide to stick 100% clean, and has that been working for you?
Well, I was very fortunate because I actually did a show that Jerry Seinfeld happened to show up at in Gotham Club in New York City, and I was just getting started, and then I asked him, "Hey, Jerry, do you have any tips for a beginning comedian?" And he said, "Dan, you should work clean. You will work everywhere." And he just turned out to be totally right, because there's so many places. Like tomorrow, for example, I'm in Vancouver. I'm flying out actually in a couple hours here, and I'm packing frantically. You can't do weddings, and you can't do charity functions and civic functions and so forth if you do profanity. Mm-hmm. Yes, there's a lot of room for it now because of HBO and cable and so forth, but by and large, you're going to be confined to the clubs if you do dirty comedy. And I think, I mean, in addition to working 30 times more places, to be honest with you, having really conservative Asian parents, I don't want to do any material I can't do in front of them.
Sure.
So being clean has actually turned out to be a fantastic benefit for me.
Great.
How does clean comedy work in the club circuit? Is it well received, or is that really difficult to pull off?
No, so this is the great thing. You can do clean comedy anywhere, even in a club. The key anywhere when you do comedy anywhere, including a club, is, are you funny? So if you're a clean comic, you can work in a club. If you're a dirty comic, you can work in a club. However, there's a lot of situations where you cannot work if you're dirty. So it's just easier just to be clean.
Right.
You can work anywhere.
Very good. And who are some of your inspirations in terms of comedy?
Well, I would definitely put Jerry Seinfeld as number one because of being clean, and because everything he does, or everything he did was extremely well polished, and it had been worked out, and he had wordsmithed it. I mean, he says on his interviews he would spend an hour cutting 8 words down to 5 to shorten the setup. Russell Peters, of course, the number one Indian comedian who made something like $14 million last year, he was a huge influence on me and actually helped write some of my jokes. So.
Wow.
Nice. Dan, you've done all these corporate presentations with Intel in front of very large audiences, and of course now you're doing stand-up comedy. I'm wondering if you could tell us, what is the difference, if any, for preparing for a stand-up act as opposed to for a fairly serious corporate presentation?
Well, it's always much more fun to do a corporate... I'm sorry, no, bite my tongue. It's much more fun to do a stand-up presentation because that's something that I've done a lot, hundreds, literally thousands of times, and that's something I can do on stage just as easily as I am talking to you folks or, say, somebody in the next room or whatever. That's really easy after you've done it enough. The corporate presentations, of course, you have to kind of tailor that a little bit more, so that requires a little bit more of background work, and when people aren't laughing, it's a little bit weird to be. It's weird to be speaking and not having people laughing at every line I'm doing,
Right.
And so that can be a little disconcerting.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's talk about the nerves for a moment, Dan. I know just with speaking alone, you get those butterflies, you get the nervous feeling, and I know with comedy, it must be, geez, and especially in front of some of the size audiences that you speak in front of, delivering comedy, it must be a lot worse, especially if your jokes don't go over too well. Is that the way it usually is, or is it about the same as giving a professional presentation?
No, believe it or not, it's axiomatic that the larger the audience, the easier a stand-up performance is going to be, because, I mean, if you're in front of, say, 2,000 people, that's much, much easier than being in front of 20, if for no other reason that it's more likely someone's going to laugh.
Yeah,
right?
I never thought of that. Right.
The other thing is that when you have 20 people or 30 in a room, everyone's kind of really self-conscious, and they don't want to be the first to laugh. People are very, very much, there's like a kind of a pack mentality. Yeah. Whereas if you're in a large theater, everyone is pretty much anonymous, so it's like they'll all laugh like at once, like right away. Whereas with 20 people, it might take a while. So there's really no butterflies from a performance standpoint, or because I'm in front of so many people. The only nervous I get now at doing what I do is if there's something going on, like let's say there's a bar and there's a bunch of people talking at the bar, or if I've been put at a really bad time, let's say during dinner, which I don't really like. I'll tell my clients I don't want to perform during dinner because for the simple physical fact that people can't laugh with food in their mouths, right?
Right.
And there's clinking plates and waiters running around. There's comedy's like, or any speech really is like dinner theater or a movie. Everyone has to be completely silent. Even 3 or 4 people are talking, it can kill your show. So the nervousness now comes more from, is something wrong in the situation that might screw things up for me?
Gotcha.
Right. So it's less performance anxiety based, it sounds like.
No, the performance anxiety is no such thing. I can be I was in front of 1,000 people in Houston on Friday, and I was just killing it, and I was like, it was the greatest feeling. It's nothing can match that.
Yeah, cool. Have you had any of those experiences where you've totally bombed? I mean, you must have bombed at least a joke, but how about like even an entire performance?
I've been very, very lucky. I was very lucky from the beginning that I still have my first performance on tape, and it's been great. However, any comedian, Chris Rock or Jerry Seinfeld, whatever, every comedian has bombed on the way to becoming a professional comedian. There's been nights when you bomb totally and you just, oh my goodness, what am I doing? I want to quit. There were three distinct events I had. The first was when I did my first comedy class. Well, it was actually my second comedy class. Everyone laughed at every joke in my first comedy class, and then the next week, no one laughed at anything. And I thought, man, maybe I should just quit this thing. I don't know if I'm cut out for this. And I think about how my life would have been different if I had quit. And so, I think part of it is, you always will bomb when you do anything new. You're not going to be instantly good at it. The key is to be able to recognize that this is part of the process. Pick yourself up and just do the next show.
Right. What about hecklers? Do you deal with them often, or have you been fortunate enough not to have to deal with them?
I feel very, again, fortunate, and I'm very unusual in the sense that that's never happened to me. The way that I think hecklers happen is when there's two things happening. If you're not funny and your jokes and your stories are way, way, way too long. And I don't know if someone tells you a joke and it's a 3-minute setup and you're like, your mind starts to wander. Then people start talking, and then they start heckling. And I've seen this happen to other comedians. The other thing, so one thing is not being funny. The other thing is there's a lot of comedians that talk to the crowd, and they invite the conversation back and forth with the crowd. And those are the kind of comedians that tend more to get heckled.
Right.
And for me, mine is not interactive. Mine is just a straight, like Seinfeld, just a straight delivery. And there's no, hey, so where are you from? What do you do? I don't do that. And so I don't get heckled also so I've actually never been heckled in my lifetime. I'm very fortunate.
Oh,
nice.
Wow. That sounds like an open invitation right now. Let's heckle him, Bo.
I don't think it's a good idea to get into any kind of a back and forth with a comedian because you might get embarrassed.
Yeah.
Right. I'm sure.
It's a battle you can't win.
No.
Hey, Dan, a lot of times we hear from fellow Toastmasters that they really want to be more funny or bring more humor into their presentations, but they'll just say sometimes, I'm just not a funny person. Is there any practical advice you could give to someone who thinks they're just not funny to find a way to bring more humor into their presentations?
I would say that you don't necessarily have to be a funny person. I mean, just most people who meet me and they don't know what I do, and I tell them I'm a comedian after a conversation, like, really, you? And they expect you to be that guy who's like, and just always laughing and roly-poly. The key is the jokes for many comedians come from everyday situations where you're talking with your buddies or you're talking on the phone or you're walking down the street and you think about something. And then the key is to write it down right then and there, otherwise you'll forget it. And so I would tell anyone, if they want to be funny in their presentations, as they go through their daily life and they hear something funny or someone says something funny or they think something funny, write it down right away. And then after a while you can have a compendium of pages and pages and pages of jokes, and then you can draw upon those for your speeches. And so I think if you're not the kind of person that could sit down and write a joke like, say, Jay Leno's team of writers, I would say just every day just write down stuff that you've observed to be funny or something that strikes you as unusual.
Yeah, that's good advice. In fact, I was watching your video and I wrote down a whole bunch of things that I thought was funny that I'm going to use.
Well, since my videos are online and one of them's hit like 700,000 views on YouTube, I kind of have a de facto copyright, I think.
All right. Well, you didn't tell me that. You got to throw up that disclaimer as well. About being
Indian and Japanese. So.
Well, I was going to say something like Irish and Polish.
There you go.
So what are you working on now, Dan? Can you tell us about your current projects?
Well, I've been very fortunate because I just shot my first major commercial, which was of course, for Apple Computer with Justin Long, who plays Mac, and John Hodgman, who plays PC. And little known trivia fact, but John Hodgman is actually a big, lifelong Mac user. He's not a PC guy.
He's a traitor.
Yeah, I know. Well, actually, everyone on the set, it was interesting being on the set because I didn't see any non-Apple hardware. Everyone had the iPhone. Everyone had Macs. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to leave my Windows laptop at home for this shoot.
Right.
But I did that commercial, and so now I'm trying to concentrate on doing more commercials. That's what I'm doing out here in L.A. What was the question again?
Well, I think you already answered it. What you were working on? How about
the commercials? Yeah, I've got a bunch of. It's great. I'm out here in LA, and I've got like 15 agents fighting over me to sign me. And I'm doing more, of course, stand up. Today, as I mentioned, I'm leaving to Vancouver to do a wedding, and I'm pretty much booked every weekend for a few months. And then also I'm working on. I just got signed to a book deal a little while ago, working on a book about making the transition from a 9-to-5 job into something that you really love. And just basically writing jokes and working out, doing karate, and just enjoying life, hopefully.
Nice.
Cool.
This weekend, I'm going to be washing my car.
Well, you can pay someone to do it. Where are you located, by the way?
We're in Massachusetts, outside of Boston.
Oh, fantastic. I've done a lot of shows up there.
No, I just wanted to ask Dan, I understand you have a role in an upcoming M. Night Shyamalan, one of my favorite filmmakers, one of his movies. Do you want to tell us about that?
Absolutely. It's called The Last Airbender, and it comes from a cartoon series from Nickelodeon that was called Avatar, but obviously because of the movie Avatar, they had to change and take that out. It's just called The Last Airbender, and it stars Dev Patel, who was in the Slumdog Millionaire, which won the Oscar last year, and it's about a kid who has these powers, and I think he's like 10 years old. And I shot 16 days and got to hang out with Knight, who, by the way, he knew who I was because his parents had actually seen me perform at a wedding in Philadelphia. And when I told him that was me, he was like, "That was you? My dad thought you were hilarious." And we were just on set for 16 days and shooting, and the food was incredible, and Knight really takes care of the crew. And I got qualified to join the Screen Actors Guild, and people say, "Hey, so what's your role? What's your role?" And now I'm a Fire Nation soldier. I had two roles. I was a stand-in for Asif Manvi from The Daily Show, who plays General Zhao, and then I was also a Fire Nation soldier. And people said, "Oh, well, where can we see you in the movie?" I said, "Well, if you rent the movie after it comes out on DVD, and you freeze frame it, you might be able to see the back of my head in the corner of the shot."
Hey, you got to start somewhere, Dan, right?
Yeah, you never know what's going to happen on a movie, but for 16 days of shooting, I should get some pretty good screen time.
Very
so
cool.
It was fantastic.
And how about a website where people could find out more information about you now or see some of your comedy?
Absolutely. My website's comediandan.com, and people can go and watch my clips, and they're totally family-friendly and no profanity, no vulgarity, totally office-friendly. So,
nice.
Fantastic.
We love it. Dan, thank you so much for being on with us. We really appreciate it. It's been
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate being on. Thank you so much.
All right.
You're quite welcome.
You have a good one. You take care.
You too. Thanks so much.
Sure.
Take care now.
Bye.
Bye, Dan.
Bye.
All right, that was our interview with Comedian Dan. You can find him again at comediandan.com. And Ryan, let's get into some listener feedback. I understand that we do have a single piece of listener feedback this month.
Yes, we certainly do. We have an email, and I'll read it for you. It says, "Hello, my name is Andrei from Kiev, Ukraine. I've been a member of Toastmasters for a month now. I'd like to say that you have an excellent podcast. It is a splendid opportunity to learn presentation skills for those people who are tired and bored of books, manuals, and other written stuff. You guys provide an opportunity to pick up the best ideas and approaches of the best speakers in a relaxed, enjoyable way. You give 5 to 8 main points in your typical programs, which are clear and memorable, and they are left stuck in the mind long after listening. Best wishes, Andre. Thank you for that message, Andre. It's great to hear from you, and we'd love to hear from other listeners. You can always call our listener voicemail feedback line at 1-888-451-8862. You can send us an email, podcast@toastmasters.org, post on our blog at toastmasterspodcast.com, or send us a tweet on Twitter, twitter.com/the TM podcast.
All right. And yes, thank you very much for that email. I do have to concur that although I'm not lazy necessarily when it comes to reading, I just really have a lot more time in the car or at the gym or walking or running or some place where I could easily listen to something, but I can't always just pull out a book or pull out a manual or something. So that's why I love podcasts so much.
The magic of podcasting.
You gotta love them. All right, everybody. Well, thank you very much for joining us. My name is Bo Bennett.
And my name is Ryan Levesque.
We'll see you next time here on the Toastmasters podcast. Bye-bye, everybody. Isn't it about time you published that book you've been thinking about? We can help with that. At ebookit.com, we've been providing authors and small presses with ebook publishing services since 2010. Visit us today at ebookit.com and let us know how we can help you.